friends, welcome to my channel 5 Minutes History. In this video, let's explore the history of the creation of Israel, a small but powerful country in Western Asia. Israeli people's association with this land dates back to thousands of years. According to the Hebrew Bible, Israel's origins can be traced back to Abraham, who is considered the father of both Judaism through his son Isaac and Islam through his son Ishmael. It is said that the God appeared to Abraham and promised him and his descendants the entire land from the river of Egypt to the Euphrates river. Since then, this land is known as the Promised Land for the Jews. When Israelites who lived in a small area known as Canaan, in what is now today Israel, were enslaved by the Egyptians for hundreds of years, Moses led the exodus of Israelites from Egypt to the Promised Land. The earliest recorded evidence of the name of Israel occurs in the Egyptian Merneptah stele erected for the pharaoh Merneptah in the 13th century BCE. King David ruled the region around 1000 BC, and his son King Solomon is credited with building the first holy temple in the ancient Jerusalem at the site now known as the Temple Mount. In about 931 BC, the area was divided into two kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Around 722 BC, the Assyrians invaded and destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel. In the 6th century BC, the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem and destroyed the first temple, which was replaced by a second temple in about 516 BC. For the next several centuries, the land of the modern-day Israel was conquered and ruled by various groups, including the Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Turks, Crusaders, and the Islamists. The religious persecution during the Islamic rule led to large-scale migration of Jews to Syria, Cyprus, and as far as Europe. From 1517 to 1917, what is today Israel, along with much of the Middle East, was ruled by the Turkish Ottoman Empire. During this period, the Ottoman district or the Sanjak of Jerusalem, comprising of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jaffa, Gaza, and Beersheba, together with the Sanjaks of Nablus and Acre, formed the region that was referred to as Palestine. In the late 19th and early 20th century, an organized religious and political movement known as Zionism emerged among the European Jews. In 1896, a young Austro-Hungarian journalist, Theodor Herzl, published the book The Jewish State and proposed the idea of creating a Jewish homeland in Palestine to allow Jews to escape the growing anti-Semitism in Europe. Following this, a large number of Jews immigrated to the ancient Holy Land and built settlements. But World War I dramatically altered the geopolitical landscape in the Middle East. In 1917, at the height of the war, British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour submitted a letter of intent supporting the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. The British government hoped that the formal declaration, known thereafter as the Balfour Declaration, would encourage support for the Allies in the war. When the First World War ended in 1918 with an Allied victory, the 400-year-old Ottoman rule came to an end, and Great Britain took control over what became known as the British Mandated Palestine, comprising of modern-day Israel, Palestine, and Jordan. The fall of the Ottoman Empire raised hopes among the Zionists for eventual sovereignty in Palestine and led to increased immigration to the Holy Land. In 1922, the League of Nations approved the British Mandate and the Balfour Declaration, which included the provisions calling for the establishment of a Jewish homeland, facilitating Jewish immigration, and encouraging Jewish settlement in Palestine. Arabs vehemently opposed the Balfour Declaration, concerned that a Jewish homeland would mean the subjugation of the Palestinian Arabs, and stepped up attacks against the Jews. During 1929 Palestine riots, hundreds of Jews were killed and their properties were destroyed. Following an increase in the Arab attacks, the British appointed a royal commission in 1936 to investigate the Palestine situation. The Peel Commission recommended the partition of the country between Arabs and Jews. While the Jews accepted the principle of partition, the Arabs rejected it and launched a revolt against the British in which thousands of Arabs and Jews were killed. During the Second World War, Hitler's Germany started the genocide of European Jews, called the Holocaust. Between 1941 and 1945, Nazi Germany systematically murdered about 6 million Jews across the German-occupied Europe. As a result, millions of European Jews, fearing persecution, found refuge in Palestine and embraced Zionism. With more and more Jews trying to leave Europe and every country in the world close to Jewish migration, the British decided to close Palestine. Jewish survivors of the Holocaust were violently turned away from the shores of Palestine. In response, paramilitary Jewish organizations like the Jewish Agency, Haganah, Irgun, and Lehi engaged in open warfare against the British and their installations and continued to smuggle Jews into Palestine. The Arabs too organized military groups and a civil war started in Palestine. The British concluded that they could no longer manage Palestine and handed the issue over to the United Nations. On 29 November 1947, after much debate and discussion, the UN recommended the partition of Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab. While the Jews happily accepted the UN resolution, the Arabs straight away rejected it. Meanwhile, since the time of the British mandate, the Jewish community in Palestine had been forming political, social, and economic institutions that governed the daily life in Palestine and served as a pre-state infrastructure. Zionist leader David Ben-Gurion served as the head of the pre-state government. The British mandate over Palestine officially ended at midnight, May 14, 1948, and just hours before that, David Ben-Gurion proclaimed the creation of the State of Israel and became its first prime minister. Longtime advocate of Zionism in Britain, Chaim Weizmann, became Israel's first president. History was created and the nation of Israel, the official homeland of the Jews, was born. United States and Soviet Union were quick to recognize the State of Israel, while the Arab League members, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon, refused to accept the UN partition and invaded Israel the very same day, starting the first Arab-Israeli war.